The role of ultrasound is mainly because of the three perpendicular planes in one image, and these readings can be taken offline and then worked on. There is no need to work on the patient because the softwares are available on the desktop where you push it and it gets the report. And in situations where you have a fibroid uterus and you would like to be a conservative management, looking at the endometrium and using a scale called TOI, tomographic slicing, where you can adjust the thickness of the slice between 1 millimeter to 10 millimeters. You can also do an imaging enhancement or decrease to look at a subtle problem. In a CT, you have these fixed images, and with time, this will be incorporated in ultrasound, where like a CT report, you have professionals giving the report in the fixed slide. These planes can be varied between 1 to 10 millimeters and sometimes little bigger. So the evolution of ultrasound has made a software application called volume contrast imaging has changed the role of ultrasound in the area of uterine anomalies. This is one of the biggest change it has made. All along, we are satisfied when a normal uterus at laparoscopy, tubes are normal, ovaries are normal, and a uterus which looks like in the luteal phase. We felt the patient is perfectly fine, and then we realized we have missed something because she doesn't have a diagnosis. When we look at this in the Clover thing, here you find a breakage of the endometrial myometrial zone, which you come back in the follicular phase and look at it. If it is infiltrating into the myometrium, you might be looking at a early adenomyosis. Or you also look at a possibility of a synechia. Synechia and adenomyosis are the common areas where they make a difference on the endomyometrial junction zone. We see all of these, but what we know and do not know, the clarity is coming in. For many years, a arcuate uterus was thought in the reproductive medicine faculty to incise it and make it wider. And if you are looking at an endometrial volume vocal function, and your volume is more than 3 ml to 4 ml, by cutting the arcuate uterus by that projection, there is no additional advantage in terms of a better implantation rate or a lesser pregnancy loss. In fact, some of the groups feel arcuate uterus may be an over-diagnosis and over-classification. When it comes to septum, all of us look at and think septum is a single entity. But when you look at the embryological point of view, the joining, the fusion, and the evaluation of the cavity occurs at different points. So you can have a wide spectrum of abnormalities in the septum. Bicornate uterus, where you see an indentation, which is around 26%, and unicornate uterus, which is 9%, and diadelphic uterus. When I was doing a post-graduation in KGH, at the time, lot of Makindo operations were done for vaginal reconstruction. At the time, my understanding was, how are you improving the patient's life? As a woman, are you empowering her to be a better person, or you're making a space for a vaginal function, and you're not allowing the woman to be her complete self? Because what I've seen is some of them get married, they're happy with the partner. Some of them get married, and a significant number separate because of marital disharmony. According to the American Society of Classification, you have one is the agencies, the second is the unicornate uterus, the third is the class is the diadelphic uterus, and the fourth is the bicornate, the fifth is septate, the sixth is arcuate, and the congenital as a consequence of DES. In the agencies, we were lucky to look at some of these things, the lateral fusion, partial formation, obstructive. In an agency, we had in 2006, 5 sisters have come for a consultation. The eldest sister does not have a child, and all of the 4 sisters are normal. When we looked into the details, we realized that she is married to a classmate and having a happy family life, and now the sisters have come to provide oocyte donation and a possible surrogacy. We suggested surrogacy is an ideal option in this situation, and one of the sisters has acted as a surrogate for that lady. And when we realize surrogate is not as simple as we think, there are many social issues that are there. At one situation, a week after the embryo transfer, her child got fever. As a maternal instinct, her reaction is to be cold to the child. But as a gynecologist, you tell them not to get too exposed to any infection. Similarly, when we say rest at 30 weeks, there's again a lot of ethical issues coming, saying, should the woman sacrifice her personal privacy and her life for taking that rest? Fourth is, there are also feeling of loss of the child by the surrogate mother, even though she knows that they are not their genetic children. This is the basic oocyte retrieval you do. You do a 18 gauge needle and then enter into each of the follicle. And as you start aspirating that, the embryologist looks into that follicular fluid and say whether that follicular fluid has the oocyte or not. But in the Mullerian agencies, where you don't have an access to the pelvis, where we opted for a laparoscopy as a procedure so that we could harvest adequate number of eggs. And you will be surprised to look at the size of the ovaries you see, which are normal stimulations, but seldom we realize they are so big and so vulnerable for torsion or hemorrhage. Like this woman did not have any hyperstimulation, but when you look at the ovaries, you are not comfortable saying anything can happen. It can produce a rupture or a torsion or a hemorrhage, and most of the time we fail to realize the magnitude of the problem we created. Through a 2 mm port, we are using the 18 gauge Cook's needle to enter into each of the follicles. Initially, we thought we'll do it by the abdominal route, but the accessibility and the length of the needle was not adequate to allow us to do it through the abdominal route. This is the oocyte aspiration needle, which is connected to the pump, and these are all the dominant follicles you see. This is the marker for the ultrasound. So as each follicle is entered, you aspirate the fluid and then enter into the next follicle. In a transvaginal ultrasound, you don't remove the needle, but you go one follicle after other. Here you will be taking it out from each follicle. So the time that is taken is more, but the alternatives are none in terms of other modalities that can be done. And look at the amount of follicular